two things for today's intro. One is that I played through Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 after many years, and to my dismay, I realized that considering the original intent behind this channel, I can no longer make myself talk about those two games here, which caused me a no small amount of distress, especially considering the fact that my latest playthrough of Neverwinter Nights just cemented that game as one of my all-time favorites, even eclipsing Baldur's Gate 2, so I was almost sure that another two games from the same developer, from the same era, would turn out to be sure hits for me, and yet the exact opposite happened, and in a way that I truly hadn't expected. So that's the first thing that I just wanted to mention because I talked about those games here multiple times and I was just so sure that I will definitely go through them on this channel. But never mind that. About the inclusion of any sort of supernatural healing and especially resurrection. I have already mentioned this when I was talking about the Forgotten Realms universe, or even during the earlier world setting talk, and how it simply causes my interest to diminish through, for me, the stakes being lessened by it. It feels as if it denied some certain portion of consequences, and it would require me as the author to play this never ending game of rock, paper, and scissors between aforementioned powers of mending and weapons, poisons, and other means of inhibiting them, or maybe even attacking the source of existence itself, whatever that might be in that particular setting. Now, I am definitely not trying to say that it is impossible to do this, to include anything like that, healing, improved regeneration, and such, and make it make sense. What I am saying is that I am unable to do so and also unwilling for reasons that I have already mentioned before and touched upon them in this very video. On one hand, dire situations and dangerous confrontations or even just simple mistakes are, I think, necessary for me to enjoy a story, but, and this concerns mainly the protagonist, they can't always be lucky to get out of those with no lasting marks. And here comes the other hand, already repeated this multiple times, but what I want as the reader and as the writer is to, as the writer, create a completely new character that has nothing to do with me in the real world. And then as the reader, I want to feel like I want to become that character rather than insert the real me into the story. And to me personally, it wouldn't feel great to live and experience the story through a maimed protagonist, a weakened version of a character that was introduced to me prior to some disastrous situation. So this is an interesting dilemma, one that will definitely become very important in my future stories, how I will approach it and balance the consequences with my personal enjoyment One thing that will definitely assist me in this endeavor is my complete disinterest in sequels and how I am not planning on continuing with the same protagonist and the same setting after when I'm done with a particular story, particular book. So if I can finish the tale in a satisfactory manner, even if the protagonist comes out of that bearing some scars that would otherwise impact my enjoyment and the story's appeal, the rest of the character's existence will remain in my headcanon of the reader and thus will allow me to circumvent this issue at least to an extent. But while the main part of the protagonist and my engagement in a story of a character like that is true, maybe I would be also interested in finding out how such character adapts to an injury like that and how is he going to continue his adventures, but that is something for the future me. So another intro without a proper conclusion and honestly without anything much to truly say. Fortunately, the Rapid Arrows will definitely amend that because a culmination of all the mishaps happening in Speedy's new apprenticeship is approaching, and it all begins with Speedy joining the rest of the club in their club room and informing them that the other three apprentices are going to do some test runs on the flying bicycle this Saturday in the Black Valley. He managed to overhear them planning the whole thing, even the exact place where they are going to make the attempt. So they find a good hiding spot behind some bushes. Indra is sent on the lookout to warn them when the trio is approaching. Then they finally see them carrying Speedy's bicycle and other parts of their master design. And while putting everything together, the propeller, the wings, they notice a bloody sun on the horizon, noting that it's probably a sign of disaster, but they still decide to go through with the plan. They even baptize the flying bicycle using the name of the original inventor of this design and the black water of the shades. And then it's time to decide who will be the lucky person to enjoy the first flight using three small balls, one of them black, the other two white. Bago, to his exhilaration, pulls out a white and he celebrates that it's not up to him to be the first victim of their engineering, and it's Scarecrow who pulls out the black one. And now it's time to review the plan, which is basically to send the flying bicycle from a small cliff, hoping that it will give it enough momentum to actually take flight. Scarecrow is clearly scared and nervous, unsure what to do if the bicycle were to fail during the liftoff after he's already past the edge of the cliff. And meanwhile, the Rapid Arrows are witnesses to this insanity, questioning the intent of the other three boys if they are really going to go with the jump. But it's too late to stop Scarecrow because he's already riding towards his destiny. Stick is there yelling at him to turn on the propeller, which he finally does, and then he's already at the edge with Mirek yelling at him to somehow attempt to stop because his life is at stake, but it's too late and Scarecrow wheels across the line for a brief period of time. It actually looks like that the bicycle is being carried by the wind, but right after that it begins descending and then finally nosedives into the ground with Scarecrow being shot over the handlebars by the force and the impact. Stick and Bago rush down the slope to their friend. Bago is hysterical, thinks that Scarecrow must be buried in the sand since he remains there unmoving, and Stick notices that someone else is running towards them as well. Fortunately, Scarecrow sits up, and then Stick realizes that it's Speedy, or Bristles as they call him, from the workshop, and that the secret is out, that he'll realize that it was them who had stolen his bicycle. Well, Mirek's first concern is obviously Scarecrow. As it turns out, the consequences of their irresponsibility was a broken arm, so thankfully nothing irreversible or lasting. And meanwhile, Bago is profusely apologizing to Speedy for the robbery, and then he's joined by Stick, who is trying to make amends, proclaiming that they are not even worthy of dusting off Speedy's shoes, but the magnanimous God Emperor himself is lenient towards his subjects, so he tells them that he is more than capable of cleaning his own shoes and that he is willing to forgive and forget, just wants his bicycle, well, a new one. And then the rapid arrows gather around the carcass of the genius invention, with Yarka lamenting that it will probably take a very long time before someone rediscovers or reinvents the flying bicycle of Jan Klepper, the broken and twisted bicycle laying at his feet being a testament to his words. And this is where I'm going to stop. Very long intro, and finally manage to close another long chapter in the book of adventures of the club called the Rapid Arrows.